Hello and welcome to the Cinema ATL Podcast. The Cinema ATL Podcast is a weekly podcast that examines the world of entertainment through the lens of local Atlanta filmmakers. That would be us, your hosts. I'm Michael D. Friedman, and that is...
Martin Kelly.
And this week, with Black Widow coming out in theaters, we thought it'd be fun to discuss our favorite Marvel movies in the latest edition of the Top 3. Also, if you haven't checked it out yet, you can listen to our review of Black Widow from last week's show. But before you do that, Martin, why don't you tell our listeners how they can help the podcast out?
Well, you help the podcast out by commenting, rating, and subscribing at the podcast platform that you are using right now. So that could be, who knows, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Amazon, Stitcher, or even Google Podcasts or YouTube. But any of those places, rate us and subscribe and comment, because that really helps us.
Right, and we also want to hear from you. You can always tweet us at CinemaATL or at our personal Twitter accounts. Mine is at CleverTransient.
Or I'm at Marte_Real1.
And don't forget our Instagram, which is at CinemaATL Podcast, all one word. And there's a lot of cool stuff for you to check out there besides just notes about the new podcasts.
Absolutely. There's always some cool stuff. And you can also go to the website, cinemaatl.com.
Well, all right. We got a lot to get into with our top 3 Marvel movies, so let's just do that.
All right. So, as you may know, if you've listened before, our top 3 lists are always just our opinions. We're not trying to create some kind of mathematical formula and prove, some scientific theorem to prove that these top 3 are the top 3. These are our opinions, and we don't care. we like our opinions. So this is what we think about our top 3 at this moment in time, and they might change tomorrow.
Yes, this is just what we're thinking at this moment. So our opinions can change, and they often have. But the way we do these top 3s is normally what we'll do is we'll start with our top 3 lists. We'll name them each of our lists starting at number 3, then number 2, then number 1. Then after that, we will discuss a little bit more about the films and why we picked them. And then usually after that, we list off some honorable mentions. But since Marvel movies are all pretty good, we decided that this week we would do something a little bit different. We are actually going to give our ranking of all of the MCU movies, all 24 movies. And we'll give our list after we talk about the top 3. So we get a little bit more detail on the top 3 and then we'll rank them all.
Yeah, definitely. Should be fun.
Yeah. All right. So Martin, let's start our top 3 list. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Good pick. My number 3 is Avengers Infinity War.
I like that one. My number 2 is Captain America Civil War.
Interesting. My number 2 is your number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice. So my number 1 is maybe kind of obvious, but Avengers Endgame.
My number 1 is maybe not so obvious. It is Iron Man.
Nice. That's a good choice. I can respect that. So you'll see how much later when we do the rankings.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about our top 3. Let's talk about. I'll talk about Avengers Infinity War first, since we both have Guardians of the Galaxy on our list. Mm-hmm. The reason I have Avengers Infinity War on here, and if you realize I did not have Avengers Endgame, which is probably the most popular Marvel movie that's existed, is that I think Infinity War was a little bit more groundbreaking than Endgame. While Endgame has a very satisfying conclusion and it's great to see the Avengers win, it was really a big, bold choice for Marvel to release a movie and then have half the universe die at the end of it.
Right. No. Yeah.
It was just a shocking moment, and you're like, "Wow, they're going to end the movie this way? That's ballsy." It's kind of like Empire,
Right. Times a bunch, actually.
Yeah, like way more darker than Empire. I mean, you know that the Avengers are actually going to come and win the war, but I think that makes this movie more impactful because we were wondering for a whole year how they were
Mhm.
going to fix this. How were
Right,
they going
right.
to do this? And while Avengers Endgame is really satisfying in how they do it, it wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Infinity War. And Infinity War is where we really first get to see, Avengers. The first Avengers movie was really cool because it brought all the characters together for the Avengers. But this was like taking all of these movies that's built up to this point and packing pretty much every character from them into this movie, except for Hawkeye and Ant-Man, who were noticeably absent, but they play bigger roles in Endgame. But it was just really impressive how they were able to do that, hang on to those multiple threads, make an entertaining story, and still shock you at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you that it was an amazing feat. You know what I mean? And again, this is just purely subjective. Every now and then, I think Infinity War is better than Endgame, even though I've got Endgame as my number one.
Right.
So it just depends. Like I just there's a lot of reasons behind my top three, but I don't disagree with you that Infinity War is a fantastic movie, and everything you say about it is correct. Like it's a massive undertaking to bring all those storylines together that's been building over all that time, all those years, all those characters, get them all together and then snap them out of existence. I
Right.
mean, that's pretty dope. You know what I mean? And so I tell you that's true. It's a great movie. So I respect your choice. It's not, again, these lists are super subjective, so it's not in my top three, but I definitely respect it.
All right. So number two for me was Guardians of the Galaxy. It was your number three. So why don't you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about Guardians of the Galaxy before I jump in?
Okay. No, Guardians of the Galaxy is so fun. So fun. It's the first sort of foray into outer space for the Marvel Cinematic
Mm-hmm.
Universe. It's got some great characters. It's got some great performances. I love the whole team is fantastic. But this group is so, what a motley crew. You know what I mean? And
Right.
to get them all together, they're so irreverent. They're so like they're so flawed. You know what I mean? And
Right.
yet,
Right.
and then in the Star Lord character, his sort of ne'er do well attitude and his his transformation into somebody who actually can connect again is what I really love about this film. And then the weirdest characters out there, really end up being almost the favorite characters of all the universe. You know what I mean? You're talking about
Right.
you know uh, Rocket. You know what I mean? And Groot. I mean,
Mhm.
they're completely weird, and yet they may be some of the most endearing characters. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Of the whole universe. And so, again, I think James Gunn had a lot to do with it. His whimsical style of filmmaking, and what they put together. Really, and I don't know how the comics are. Honestly, I don't know if they're this fun in the comics, but they were extremely fun on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing about Guardians of the Galaxy is like, even when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out, even I was like, "Who?" I'm like, "What? Why are they making this film?" Like, I had heard of Guardians of the Galaxy, but the original Guardians of the Galaxy and Marvel, which came out like in the 70s or 80s, I believe, were just kind of generic characters and didn't really have any impact. And this newer version, which they based it off of, I guess, was reintroduced in the early 2000 in the 2000s time frame sometime. I
Okay,
was not
okay,
aware of them because I never really followed it, but I will say that I was always a huge Rocket Raccoon fan uh, growing up. In fact, I have the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon, which is Incredible Hulk 271. I had the Rocket Raccoon limited series, and I never thought that I would ever see this character on the big screen, and it was like the coolest thing in the world. I didn't know that they had kind of rebooted him into the Guardians of the Galaxy. They made his character a lot more snarkier, and I really enjoy that aspect of him. I really enjoy
right.
this version of Rocket even more than I just kind of, when I was a kid, I liked the raccoon. I just thought he was
Sure, yeah,
cool. It
yeah.
was cool that a raccoon could be a superhero and stuff like that. But but yeah, but yeah, I agree with all the same things that you say. Their attitude of these characters, the fact that they're kind of like a bickering family, and the Drax character is hilarious.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I didn't think that that was going to be a good character, especially with Batista playing him. Like I didn't really know that he could pull that off. You know, I always loved Chris Pratt too. You know, I've liked him since, you know, Parks and Rec and stuff like that. So to see him become this big movie star, pretty much based off of this. I
Right.
mean, he
Oh,
had done
absolutely.
stuff before this, but this really elevated him
Well, he was usually
to
second
superstar
banana.
material.
Like he had been in a lot of
Right.
he had been in a lot of films as second banana, or even third banana if you talk about, or fifth banana if you talk about like Moneyball or something. But you know what I mean.
Right.
But he was always great in those parts. But here he got to shine, as the lead. And I think you're right though. Everyone was kind of a revelation, honestly. I mean, Zoe Saldana, she's great already
Mhm.
going into this, but she did a great job again. But then everyone else was sort of just amazing,
Mhm.
in the part. Like you mentioned, like who knew that Drax was going to be that great a character? Even when he first came on the screen, you didn't know he would
Right.
end up being as good a character as he ended up being. And so, yeah, I mean, everything about it was just fun, and I think the fact that it was so fun is why it resonates so much with me, and the fact that this actually led the way for some of the fun stuff that can come later. You know what I mean? They had some moments, in
Right.
earlier
Right.
ones, but never quite this just fun. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm a
In my
big fan of
opinion.
comedy in general, and as you see when you see my list, you know, Thor Ragnarok's pretty high up for me too. I love the levity of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I like that being interspersed with the superheroes and the action and stuff like that. So this one really
Definitely.
kicked it off, I think.
No doubt. And even the villain, oh my gosh, he's so over the top and
Yeah,
crazy. And another great performance as well in that role. So
yeah, Lee
uh,
Pace, yeah,
yeah, Lee Pace was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, again, fun all around. And I think it just sort of this is sort of the moment you realize that this universe is going to be spectacular. It
oh
was
yeah,
great
it can
up
go
until
anywhere.
then.
Yeah,
Right. It was
if you
great up
can,
until then. But then if you can go to space and then have these crazy characters work this
and make
well,
us care for a raccoon in a
a
tree.
raccoon in a tree. A tree. But yeah, exactly. They could do anything by that point.
Right. All right. So let's move on. Number two for you
Yeah, so my
was
number two is Captain America Civil War. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I think Captain America is sort of the best character, like the best character in the sense of what he represents. You know what I'm saying? And
hmm
so the fact that he does, and also what's fun about this is it's almost Avengers light, in a way because of
yeah.
the fact that all the characters that you get involved in this,
Honestly,
are
could have called it Avengers Civil War. Honestly.
no, absolutely. They could have, and so that's what made it really great at the time. But then the fact that Captain America is so resolute in his sort of belief system that he's willing to, you know, to to fight for his beliefs even against all the mainstream kind of odds,
hmm
against him, and even go against some of his own friends. You know what I mean? In a way, and the he just to me is sort of a great character. I wish this type of character was celebrated more. And not in a superhero movie. I don't mean superhero characters. I just mean a character of this sort of positivity. You know what I mean?
Right.
Can be celebrated more in movies. I mean, movies seem to be the ones that get critical acclaim seem to be about anti-heroes and things of that nature. I wish we could have more compelling movies about heroes. You know what I mean? And not superheroes, but you know what I mean. And
Right.
characters that are just this stand up. And again, it was also a fun movie. Like you mentioned, it could have been Avengers Civil War, and we got to see SpiderMan, which was a fantastic thing when
Right.
Spider-Man crossed over. So that's just why it's again a lot of fun, and yet just happened to be I just want to pay respect to what I think is the best character. Maybe not my favorite, but the best character of the whole Marvel universe.
Right. And then this movie did introduce Black Panther as well, so it was like not just
Absolutely.
Spider-Man, but Black Panther's in it, and just so it's really cool to,
And
uh,
even AntMan gets to
yeah,
come in,
yeah,
So it's like everybody gets in on the act. So it's like it's the preview of what later
yeah,
became sort of the Infinity War and the Endgame.
right, right. All right. Well, let's move on to number ones. I'm going to go first. I'm going to talk about Iron Man. The reason I chose Iron Man was because it's the one that started it all, and it's just a really solid movie. And without Iron Man, without the success of Iron Man, which you got to remember, Iron Man was kind of like a B level hero in Marvel's stable of heroes, right? X-Men were always the top dog for Marvel.
Hmm.
And even Captain America was more well known than Iron Man, but they chose Iron Man to kick off the Marvel universe, and it was a great choice by them. Robert Downey Jr. is perfect for Tony Stark, and he plays it to perfection. And it's just the movie's a lot of fun. And it shows like the genius of Tony Stark at the very first, which leads up to Endgame. He's the one that
Absolutely.
comes up with the grand plan to fix everything, and it all started with Iron Man. And if you didn't have Iron Man, you wouldn't have the Marvel Universe. So that's why I chose it as number one. And I just really think it's a solid movie. I like to watch it. I've watched it multiple times. It still holds up. And, the only thing I can say is maybe the villain's not the best in it,
Yeah.
but you don't have to, you have to start somewhere. You have to start from the ground floor. You can't have the super villain right away. Um,
Yeah.
you couldn't
Exactly.
have Iron Man battling Thanos right away, right?
No. No. No.
You had to build up to it, and I think for what he was dealing with at the time, it actually is the perfect villain. It's the insider. It's the
Hmm.
about him and his company and his dad's legacy and all that stuff. So
Right.
Iron Man is my number one.
No, and I can't argue with any of that. It's. You'll see later. It is high on my list as well, and I agree. If it wasn't for Iron Man, we wouldn't be gushing about all these other films that we've seen
Yeah,
since. Because they were taking a big chance on picking that character. Although I have to say, shout out to Eddie Singleton. Eddie Singleton has always been an Iron Man guy, so he was always
yeah.
rooting for Iron Man to be picked out. But and a lot of people are the same way. They loved Iron Man, but. I agree. Great movie. John Favreau, fantastic. He's sort of the guy most responsible, as a filmmaker of creating
Right.
this whole universe. So shout out to him. Definitely deserves a lot of credit for what they've done. But again, you're right. He pulled off a fantastic movie. At the time, Robert Downey Jr. was thought of as a risky choice. You know what I mean,
Hmm.
to headline a movie. But obviously, he made the right choice, and enough respect to Robert Downey Jr. for proving himself after all his issues, and just kind of bringing one of the iconic characters of the last couple of decades to life.
Well, how you
So
talk about Robert Downey Jr. being a risky choice? Even doing a superhero movie at that point was
absolutely,
kind of a risky
absolutely,
choice. I mean,
because
you had
they had been going downhill and
right.
really falling off.
I mean, you had
Like
X-Men and you had Spider-Man that were doing well, and you had Batman back in the
yeah,
90s. But
right,
that was going downhill, and then all the other movies, all these other superhero movies are coming out were either bad or just average at the best.
right, right.
So they kind of reinvented the genre, and now superheroes are the number one box office draw there is. So
Yeah, and then you have to also tip your hat to Marvel for taking their own destiny in their own hands.
right,
Because
right.
they had been licensing these characters out to to hit and miss success, but then they said, "Look, we have a way that we want to do it that we feel is the right way to do it," and they proved that they were right. They were the ones that knew how to handle their characters the best.
I mean, they showed
So
why people have been a fan of comic books for so long. They actually got the comic books right. That's
yeah,
what they did.
yeah, totally, totally. So yeah, I mean, certainly, a worthy pick. So that said, let's talk about my favorite, my number one, and that's Avengers Endgame, which I think a lot of the reasons why you like Iron Man is the reasons why I like Endgame, and it's kind of the reverse of it. Is that
Right.
Iron Man kicked everything off, but Endgame really just proved it was all worth it. You know what I
Right.
mean? The ride, like you mentioned, Infinity War was very daring in the way it just decided to tell its story and get rid of half the universe, that kind of thing. That was
Mm.
all bold and great, but the persistence of the characters that remained and their commitment to sort of making everything right and to figuring out how to do it and do it the right way. You know what I mean? I think it all resonates with me, in bringing back, the key characters like Hawkeye and Ant-Man, who weren't even, part of the Infinity War piece, but they were really integral to this story and the telling of it and sort of
Right.
the impetus behind going on the mission. And again, it was really cleverly done. It was really well done. And of course, it just provided the fans of these movies with sort of the ultimate party at the end, and that's why I like it so much.
Right. And I don't know if you have you seen the Marvel trailer that they put out, like kind of like we're back in theaters
Yes, yes,
trailer.
I have seen that.
The moments in that movie were just so crowd pleasing, and it shows why you want to watch these films in a theater. And just like the
Absolutely.
whole Falcon saying "on your left," and
Yep.
when
Yep.
he catches Thor's hammer, when
Uh huh.
Captain America
Oh,
catches Thor's hammer, and everybody just cheering, and there were so many great moments in Avengers Endgame, and it's definitely one of my top movies as well. I had it ranked a little bit lower, but like you said, any day I could watch it again, and I've watched that movie tons of times too. Sometimes I just put it on the background while I'm working, and
I'm the same way. Exactly. I've been watching that a lot lately and just sort of keeping it, watching it sometimes actively and sometimes passively.
right,
But yeah, it's just like I said, it feels like a great reward for putting in the time in all these movies. You know what I mean? Like, so
right,
you're rewarded with a sort of a really cool ending. You know what I mean? And it's not over. Obviously, they're going to keep
right.
going, but yeah, for this phase and for this sort of couple of phases, I guess that they ended up, culminating with Endgame, I thought was fantastic, and so that's why it's my favorite.
Well, all right. Those are our top three. Why don't we just recap the top three real quick? My top three were number three, Avengers Infinity War, number two, Guardians of the Galaxy, and number one, Iron Man.
And my top three are number three, Guardians of the Galaxy, number two, Captain America: Civil War, and number one, Avengers Endgame.
All right. Well, now let's get into our ultimate Marvel movie rankings. I don't know how we want to do this. Should I just list mine and then you list yours, or we want to start
Yeah,
24 and move up? I think it
no,
might be confusing if we go back and forth.
yeah, I think so. I think let's just run through them, and then we'll discuss anything that you got an issue with, or I have an issue with, or something we
Oh
just
my
want to
God, an
highlight. You
issue
know,
with it. Like, I
you know what I'm saying. Or that we want
mean,
to point out, or say something about, or want to highlight. So let's just do it like
all
that.
right.
You know,
Okay. I will list mine out first. And I will caveat this by saying that I enjoy all Marvel movies. So being ranked last shouldn't be a shame to anybody. It's just what it is. Yeah, if you're putting them in order, they got to go in some order. But in general, I will watch a Marvel movie over other things. Well, maybe not Star Wars, but close. Um, okay, number 24, Iron Man 2. Number 23, Thor: The Dark World. Number 22, Iron Man 3. Number 21, Black Widow. Pretty low for Black Widow. I know we just watched it, but I don't know. Maybe it'll grow on me. Number 20, The Incredible Hulk. Number 19, Captain Marvel. Number 18, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 17, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 16, Doctor Strange. Number 15, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 14 is Thor for me. I know that's pretty high compared to a lot of people's, but I really like the Thor character, and I really have no complaints with his introduction. And then I go on a Captain America run. Number 13 is Captain America, the First Avenger. Number 12 is Captain America, Civil War. Number 11 is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And then I've got number 10, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 9, Ant-Man. Number 8, The Avengers. Number 7, Black Panther. Number 6, Endgame. Number 5, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 4, Thor Ragnarok. And then my top 3, Avengers Infinity War, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Iron Man.
All right, all right. So our lists are definitely different. So you'll hear it as I recap mine. So for me, number 24, The Incredible Hulk. Number 23, Thor: The Dark World. Number 22, Iron Man 2. Number 21, Thor. Number 2, and I like Thor. It's not that I don't like Thor. I really do like Thor. Number 20, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 19, Black Widow. Number 18, Iron Man 3. Number 17, Captain Marvel. Number 16, Captain America, the First Avenger. Number 15, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Number 14, The Avengers. Number 13, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 12, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 11, Ant-Man. Number 10, Doctor Strange. Number 9, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Number 8, Avengers Infinity War. Number 7, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 6, Black Panther. Number 5, Thor Ragnarok. Number 4, Iron Man. And then the top 3, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America Civil War, and then Avengers at number 1. Avengers Endgame, sorry.
Well, yeah, we definitely have differences. So I'm going to post these in the notes
okay.
on Cinema ATL.
Okay.
So if people want to dissect them, they can, and give us their comments. And we'd like to hear your ranking of them. I'm
already questioning my own ranking, honestly, after I just said them. But
well, and that was these, like we said, these things evolve, right? So I have Avengers: Age of Ultron at number 15, and it never was that high. But I think the impact of WandaVision has really changed my feelings of that movie. And so that just shows you, like, especially since Marvel movies are continuing saga going on, and the TV shows now are adding into it, it kind of changes your perspective on things. So that's kind of one of the examples that I have. And once again, Thor, I think, is higher on my list than a lot of people, but I like, and like I said, I like comedy. So you see that Ragnarok's up there pretty high. Spider-Man Homecoming's up there pretty high. Ant-Man's up there pretty high. And Thor being high for me is also because I do love the comedic aspects of Thor, the fish out of the water story. I love the Darcy character, and I love the Darcy character even more when she became part of WandaVision. So those have really kind of impacted my thing. And then Captain America: The First Avenger is another one that moved up the list for me. The more I've seen it, the more I enjoy it. Whereas when I first saw it, I wasn't that impressed with it, but I really like it now that I know the character so much more, and how, those are the things that really impacted me.
No, totally. I mean, I agree. And again, this whole list is just like our top 3. It's like it's all ever evolving, and so my whole thing is, some of these I enjoy just because I like certain things. Like I'd love, so Spider-Man. Both Spider-Mans are in the top 13 for me, and I noticed that one of them was a lot further down than you were. But I just like those characters. I just like the Spider-Man.
I like the Spider-Man characters. So, I'll tell you one of the reasons why Spider-Man Far From Home is lower for me is probably because I'm a fan of the comic books, and I knew Mysterio was going to be the bad guy the whole time, and so that kind of ruins part of the movie for you if you already.
Gotcha.
And it was kind of obvious in hindsight, for anybody that might have been watching it. But for me, watching it was kind of like, well, when are they going to reveal the turn here? And it was kind of like,
right.
Okay.
Right.
But like the characters are great in Spider-Man, and I'm really excited about the new one coming out too. So
yeah, definitely. No, totally. And maybe that's part of why it's up there, just because I know that's coming soon, and I can't wait, to see that crew back in action. But even like, for instance, Ant-Man and the Wasp is probably ranked too high, because I'm trying to figure out what I even remember about it, other than, getting in, so it's like, why is it ranked so high? But that's just because Ant-Man is so enjoyable to me. So
I love Ant-Man. I love the original, and it's pretty high up on the list for me, like number 9. Like a lot of people wouldn't have it that high, but Ant-Man the Wasp. A lot of people have Ant-Man the Wasp higher than Ant-Man. I like the original Ant-Man, just because I like it was. I was chuckling throughout the entire movie, especially with what's the actor's name? Michael Pena's character.
Yeah, Michael Pena. Awesome. Yeah.
God, he was so good in that. And then it didn't have the exact same feel of that in Ant-Man the Wasp. They were focusing more on the Wasp and Ant-Man. So I guess it wasn't as, even though there's a lot of fun stuff in it, it just wasn't as new. And actually, if you see on my list, a lot of it, you have like a diminishing return on a lot of the sequels. You'll see that they're lower most of the time, except for Thor Ragnarok, because that was total reinvention.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I agree with you. And Thor Ragnarok is very high on my list too. And even though the Thor, and again, I love Thor, the character, but I've liked him more in the Avengers movies than in the first couple of Thor movies, honestly. So, so that's why. But then Thor Ragnarok, he was fantastic. And it really brought that character back to the forefront, Right. So I can't wait for the next Guardians movie to have Thor, tagging along with them, or whether it's the Thor movie or not. I don't know if the Thor movie's going to have them or he's going to be in the Guardians movie. I don't know, but whatever it is, I can't wait
together at some point, because that was part of the best. That was some of the best stuff in Avengers Infinity War.
Definitely
was him with them. All right, well, that kind of wraps it up for we could talk about this list forever. So we have to wrap it up at some point. Like I said, I'm going to put these up on the site. Plenty of time to discuss them if you want to. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to hear your rankings. I'm sure people think maybe we're insane on some of this stuff, but that's what we're thinking right now. But anyway, thanks for listening again. I hope you enjoyed it. And just a reminder, with Black Widow coming out this week, we did do a review on it last week, so go ahead and check that out. It's available wherever you're hearing this podcast right now. We want to thank Eureka Failure for providing the music as they do each and every week. We really appreciate it. Please share, comment, post, whatever you want to do with this podcast, because we really could use the help getting the word out. And speaking of words, Martin, what are your final words of wisdom this week?
My final words are: the world is changed by your example, not your opinion.
That's a very good words of wisdom. I didn't have a witty comeback last time, and I don't have another one here because I really appreciate those words of wisdom. Those are on point.
Cool.
So you get bonus points this week, Mark.
Well, Nick, I'll try to go softer next time, so that
you gotta go softer, so I can you gotta give me a softball, so I can just be like blah blah blah.
So exactly, because that's fun too. I like when you do that, but I'm glad you appreciate it.
All right, well, once again, thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll see you again next time. Talk to you later.